Hey there, North Decatur. My name is Daniel, and I'm one of the pastoral residents at the church, and I'm also a member of the TNT Sunday School class. And for today's daily devotional, I'd like to read for you a passage from one of my favorite devotional books. The book is called Bread for the Journey by Henry Nouwen. And as I was going through this book this past week, there was one of the passages that really jumped out to me that I thought really spoke to us and had a challenging word for how we ought to do life together in this interesting season together. So I'd like to just read this passage for you and then offer maybe one or two thoughts about how it connects to us. The passage is called The Virtue of Flexibility. Trees look strong compared with the wild reeds in the field, but when the storm comes, the trees are uprooted, whereas the wild reeds, while moved back and forth by the wind, remain rooted and stand up again after the storm has calmed down. Flexibility is a great virtue. When we cling to our own positions and are not willing to let our hearts be moved back and forth a little by the ideas or actions of others, we may be easily broken. Being like wild reeds does not mean being wishy-washy. It means moving a little with the winds of the time while remaining solidly anchored in the ground. A humorless, intense, opinionated rigidity about current issues might cause them to break our spirits and make us bitter people. And so let's be flexible while being deeply rooted. As I've been thinking about this passage the last few weeks, I've been really struck by how flexible we are all being forced to be right now. Um, we're having to be flexible in what it means to worship together on Sunday mornings, being flexible about what it means to do community life together, and in every other area of our life. Things are changing rapidly, and flexibility is a key virtue, I think, in being able to navigate and to manage these challenging times well. But one of the things that I want to lift up is that I think we ought to remember that while we are being flexible, a part of being flexible is being deeply rooted. And it's the deep roots of the wild reeds that allow them to sway back and forth in the wind of the storm and to not break. It's the deep roots that allows them to move with the winds of the times, to be affected by the ideas, the needs, the hopes of other people, and to remain intact. And I think there's a temptation in the season that we're living in to believe that flexibility means doing everything you can to look out for yourself and your own. This is why people are hoarding toilet paper and dry goods, and it's good and prudent to be cautious and to take precautions. But I think gone too far, this flexibility can become very individualistic. And I think the challenge for us as people of faith is to remember that while we're being flexible, we need to remember that we are a deeply rooted people. We are a people who are rooted in the hope of the gospel, in the hope of Jesus Christ, in the hope that God is good no matter what situation we find ourselves in, and that this is not the end of the story. And that hope is the anchor for our souls. It is the anchor for our flexibility in these difficult times. But as so much is changing in the world around us, I think it can be really easy to forget that, especially when what is right in front of us is just the needs that require us to be flexible. And so I think what Nouwen speaks to us today, and my prayer and my challenge for you is to continue to be like the wild reed. Continue to be able to move back and forth with the things that change. Allow your heart to be moved deeply by the needs, the actions of other people in your community. Do not turn inward, but allow this to be a time to turn outward, because the faith that we are grounded in is not one just for us, it is for the whole world. And so we're called to share that love with the world. I think it's hard. I think it's hard, but I think as people of faith, the challenge of this time is to remember that. And so that's my prayer. That's my hope for us all. We're in it together, and we're going to get through it together as flexible and deeply rooted people. So thanks be to God. Amen.